Hi, my name is Christopher Kenoy, and today I'm going to be giving my persuasive speech. My specific purpose is to persuade my audience about the benefits of legalizing and taxation of marijuana. My central idea is that the legalization and taxation of marijuana can lead into a huge cash crop industry. Cannabis is a leafy plant which grows wild in many of the tropic and temperate areas of the world. It is cultivated both indoors and out for the production of its flowering tops. The most commonly used form of cannabis are the leaves and the flowering tops, the buds, which may be either smoked or eaten. It also comes in a more concentrated resinous form called hashish, which is a sticky black liquid called oil. There are three distinct species of cannabis. Most recreational use of cannabis is the result of interbreeding between these three types. The term hemp is generally used to describe the low THC varieties of cannabis which are grown for industrial uses. The primary effects sought by those using cannabis recreationally are euphoria, relaxation, and changes in perception. Effects vary depending on dosage, with the effects at low doses including a sense of well-being, mild enhancement of senses, which are smell, taste, hearing, subtle changes in thought and expression, talkativeness, giggling, increased appreciation of music, increased appetite, and the mild closed eyes visuals. At higher doses, sense of time is alerted, attention span and memory are frequently affected, and thought processes and mental perception may be significantly altered. The effects of smoking cannabis are usually lighter than those of many other recreational psychoactive substances. People are generally capable of carrying out normal actions and activities under the influence of marijuana. The cannabis plant has been used both medically and recreationally for thousands of years. It wasn't until the early 19th century that the use of cannabis spread from China and the Middle East to the population of Europe and then to America in the middle of the century. Cannabis was made illegal in the U.S. in 1937 and has continued to be a popular recreational substance since that time. In 1937, with the passage of the Marijuana Tax Act, the United States effectively banned recreational and medical use of cannabis. Many nations followed suit in 1961 through the United Nations Single Convention of Narcotic Drugs. 54 nations agreed to adopt such measures as may be necessary to prevent misuse of and illicit traffic in the leaves of cannabis plant. Despite such restrictive control, cannabis has become the most widely used illicit drug in the Western world. Different drugs produce different effects and pose different risks. The legal status of any given drug is not necessarily a reliable indicator of its potential for harm. Whereas marijuana has never been shown to cause an overdose death, alcohol poisoning kills every day. Most people every year then die from alcohol poisoning than an overdose in marijuana. The Netherlands has led the way in cannabis reform since it amended its Opium Act in 1967 to distinguish among drugs according to the levels of risk. Identifying cannabis as a soft drug, the Dutch government decided to treat possession and cultivation of up to 30 grams as activities, not for persecution, detection, or arrest. This policy of tolerance paved the way for coffee shop systems of public distributing of both marijuana and hashish. Most recently, in 1996, the voters of California passed Proposition 215, the Compassionate Use Act, so that sick and dying patients could legally use marijuana for medical purposes. Cannabis buyers clubs, not unlike the Dutch hash coffee shops, have emerged to provide marijuana to those with legitimate medical needs. Despite the federal government's ongoing efforts to stymie Prop 215 by shutting down the clubs, states continue to consider similar ballot initiatives. The Drug Policy Alliance and its partner organization, Drug Policy Alliance Network, is actively working in numbers of states of Alabama, California, Connecticut, Maryland, New Mexico, New Jersey, and New York, to advance effective drug policies through coalition building, public education, and legislative efforts. In addition, we are closely monitoring the pace and reform in many other states. May 7, 2009 marked the first time in history that a nationwide poll showed a majority support for taxing and regulating marijuana at its all-time high 52%. The poll conducted by Zogby International at the end of April was also one of the largest sample sizes of any national polls on the subject, with almost 4,000 respondents. This poll is in combination with recent trends and is further evidence that Americans are quickly realizing the value of taxing and regulating marijuana. Congress, however, isn't, and should keep up. In 1996, California was the first state in the nation to tax and regulate recreational marijuana use in the same manner as alcohol. Cannabis is now California's biggest cash crop. Assemblyman Tom Amino contends it is time to reap some state revenue from the harvest while putting a damper on the use by drug teens, cutting police costs, and even helping Mother Nature. California's marijuana crop is at its all-time high, which a $14 billion industry, putting it above the vegetable industry, which is at $5.7 billion, and the grape industry, which is at a $2.6 billion. If so, that could mean an upward of $1 billion in tax revenue for the state each year. Reports show that marijuana legalization, replacing prohibition with a system of taxation and regulation, would save $7.7 billion per state and federal expenditures on prohibition enforcement, and produce tax revenues of at least $2.4 billion annually if marijuana were taxed like most consumer goods. If, however, marijuana was taxed similar to alcohol or tobacco, it might generate as much as $6.2 billion annually. In conclusion, the report estimates that legalizing marijuana would save $7.7 billion per year in government expenditure on enforcement of prohibition. $5.3 billion of the savings would accrue to state and local governments, while $2.4 would accrue the federal government. Reports also estimate the marijuana legalization would yield tax revenue of $2.4 billion annually with the consumer goods. Well, that is my speech. I hope you learned a lot from the use of taxing and legally licensing of marijuana. Thank you.